Have you ever wanted to visit a Greek island but felt overwhelmed choosing which one to visit? Don't worry, fear not, I feel the same. My plan? I grabbed the map of Greece, closed my eyes, placed my finger on the island part of the map of Greece, and picked out Karpathos Island. Have you heard of it? Nope, I hadn't either, so I planned a trip to visit. What is my aim? Well, I want to get to know the island, the locals, the beaches, Olympos, which I've heard of, the food, the lifestyle, and the vibe of the island. So many questions. My plan is to rent a car, wing it around the island, record an interview with Athena and Vincent from the Karpathos Guide, check out some local hotspots, and take it from there. So here goes. Hello, I'm James, and this is the Winging It Travel Podcast. In 2023, I spent a year travelling the world with my girlfriend Emma. Join me as I take a look back over our epic trip, and remember to like and subscribe to keep up with our adventures. I have just been in Athens for a few days with my mum before jumping on a flight to Karpathos Island with Sky Express. The flight was $50 one way Canadian, and you can check a bag in for free. Karpathos Island is situated between Crete and Rhodes in the southern part of the Aegean Sea, and right now I am settling into my flight and enjoying the views out of the window. Despite being December, it is pleasantly warm and a clear day, and I am excited to arrive. When I landed, I met Maria at the front desk of Hertz to pick up my hire car, and it was the most casual transaction ever. No deposit, just Maria's phone number in case I needed help during my stay, and she pretty much said, if you're in trouble, text me. She was so positive and friendly, and she did advise one thing, and that is driving over to Olympos, which needs caution because at this time of the year the road is prone to rocks falling onto it, and the weather is much worse at higher altitudes because I need to drive up then down into Olympos. But other than that, I was off. But my first port of call is heading towards the town of Pigadia, which is the capital of Karpathos Island and the main settlement on the island, and my Airbnb, which is a 2-bedroom apartment minutes from the beach. It was perfect for my stay because this had a balcony and only 25 Canadian dollars a night. Unbelievable value. And after a refresh, I headed into town to find Harper Restaurant on the seafront there, which has an all-day breakfast, lunch, dinner and coffee options. Look at that view for my lunch and coffee. Walking along the waterfront promenade, I instantly fell in love with the colours and being by the sea. I mean, can it be beaten? This part of town is much more for the locals as the big resort buildings are further towards the north along the coast. However, you can see that this is a quiet season because there's no one around and many of the restaurants and cafes are closed. So I popped into the supermarket and spoke to some locals who had moved back from Canada to Greece, and they were surprised to see me in the off season because it's cold, not much is open, and I'm not sure why I'm visiting. But we had a good laugh and a good chat, always nice to meet locals. And then something happened. I was violently ill after dinner. It could have been from the tap water I drank or from gone off milk I'd accidentally put into my tea. It was an absolute error and I was devastated. Either way, I am suffering and that is the end of my night. After a rough night, I am forcing myself out for my first trendy coffee and I'm heading towards the Cafe Pantheon. And I took one look at the front of the cafe and I was like, yep, I want some of that, get me in. But I actually sat outside enjoying Lavazza coffee and in 20 degrees weather. I did muster some energy to walk through the town's little streets, and as Christmas is approaching, Christmas songs were playing from the speakers on every corner. Feels a bit weird given that it's 20 degrees, but as you can see, they have the stereotypical Greek streets with white buildings and colourful roofs. It was a dream of mine to visit, and this is what I had in mind before I left. Another classic site I was looking for was those little white churches, and I found one. Listen to my excitement here. After checking out Athens for 3 days, I've come to Karpathos Island for a bit of island life. Some good food, some nice weather, some beaches. Hope to check out some more of these churches like this, real traditional Greek churches, and check out Olympos as well on the island, which is a traditional Greek village. Get an interview done, record some podcasting, and of course, some great coffees. How can I forget? Dream life. This is what I call a classic little Greek church. Little bell up there. Let's take a little tour around it. It's literally in the middle of nowhere. Saw on a map, walked there from the town below. Took about 15 minutes. Look at this, look. How awesome is this? Huh. Up in the hills. Lovely. In the distance there you can see another church perched on top of the hill, so I'm going to head for that because, as you know, I'm a sucker for a view, and I started trudging my way up the hill running on empty, but I did make it and I was asking myself, was this going to be worth it? Let's take a look. This is called Church St Zacharia, and how awesome is this? It has stunning views of Pigadia and the sea in the distance there, and you can enter the church for free if you needed to, and walking up that hill took me about 20 minutes, so let's just sit here and admire the view. This is the perfect way to end the day. So I'm currently on a road trip from the main capital down there to Olympos, the traditional Greek village. I'm going to take more of a scenic route, which was recommended by the person at the desk where I'm renting the car, called Maria. The road does go from the capital to Olympos, but it's quite windy and it can be subject to falling rocks, so I've gone the other way, which is an extra 20 minutes, which means I'm going to hug the coast on the west of the island. So we'll stop off first, came from down there. Still driving in the mountains. Let's go. And the first impressions of the roads are narrow, tight, windy, with plenty of stop-offs for views. This corner reminds me of the Monaco Grand Prix, just with fewer Ferraris, yachts and tax avoiders. And my aim today is to get to Olympos, and I'm a tad nervous about the road based on what Maria had said at the airport. However, along the route are some stunning views of the island. And the weather has picked up too, with some classic Greek blue skies. And crikey, that journey was a tad scary. Obviously I have no footage of that as I was driving, but the roads are not protected from falling rocks, and I was dodging some along the road along the way, and there was no one on the roads, which was a godsend really, as there were some tight bends to navigate. But no dramas, I made it to Olympos. According to my Google search, this is the thing to see on the island, and I was excited to be here. Now let's take a walk through the village. I have no real aim apart from a cafe called the Parthenon Cafe that I saw on social media, and based on that reel, it looked insane. And as you can see, Olympos has those classic tight little streets weaving in and out of the town. Every corner has a different colour or cute little house. I absolutely love it. Being off season, there are no tourists around whatsoever, so I had the place to myself. What a dream. I'm heading to the town square, where the town bell is, and look how awesome this is. There should be a place to take photos of the coastline, so I'll wander around a bit more so I can find that perfect spot. And wow, look at this. Arrived at Olympos after an hour and 20-minute drive, and I'm walking around the town, and it's an absolute ghost town. I haven't found any cafe open yet for coffee. I'm going to do a bit more walking, see what I can find. There's a few locals working on the buildings, but absolute ghost town, no one about. So if you don't want tourists in an idyllic location, come in the off season. I was slowly wandering around town, and there wasn't much open, but there was one place open, and can you believe it? It is the Parthenon Cafe. The owner, Nikos, is doing some work on his hotel around the corner, and has opened a cafe for the locals who are also working on their buildings. And yet again, he couldn't believe I was visiting in December. So he took me into his cafe for a coffee. We talked for an hour and a half. He told me about the history of the village, his family, the history of the cafe, and Greece. What a guy. His hotel is called the Aphrodite Hotel, around the corner from there, and he showed me around. It had awesome views of the water, so this is a must if you're going to stay in Olympos. And I needed to walk around the village again just to see every street possible. I was amazed and blown away by the small little place. I can see why people want to visit this place on Karpathos Island. I can only imagine how crowded it gets with lots of tourists around. Nikos did share that concern with me too. It was time to leave and I'm heading back via the Frangolimiano Beach, and when I parked up, this place was deserted. All the hotels and restaurants were closed. I wanted to take a walk on the beach and read my book. This place has unreal colours and it's an absolute glorious end to the day. But how rare is it to get an untouched beach all to yourself? I'm feeling quite lucky at this point right now, and there's so much beauty in nature. I'm trying not to get too hippie here, but I imagine Greece to be like this, and Karpathos Island has my heart. Today I'm interviewing Athena and Vincent, who are from the Netherlands, have settled on Karpathos Island, and they kindly invited me in for coffee. And here's a snippet of the episode which I recorded with those guys. You can find a full episode on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Audible, and all the rest. The link is in the show notes. Here's a snippet for you.
Kapelago, definitely.
Okay, yeah.
Closer right from Pigadia.
Yeah, you have the 3 beaches there. So Agatha, Tirapanagira, and Apella. So,
Apella, yeah.
Apella is beautiful. I think in 2002, I'm not sure, it was the best beach, the most beautiful beach of Europe.
Oh, wow.
It's so pretty. It's very busy during like summertime, high season, but off season, for example, you can go there in May and June. And
we slept there with the camper in April, so we wake up and you have the beach for your alone. So that was amazing.
It's very those
quiet,
are very pretty.
I've just checked out of my Airbnb and I'm heading to Kasos Island, which is the little island next door, and I had a burning desire to visit. So I hopped on one of the shortest flights in the world, which only took 7 minutes, and there are only 3 people on board with me, including me. And it is a gorgeous day and the views are absolutely insane on the walk to the capital free from the airport. Airbnbs in Greece are super cheap in the off season, so I've booked another one for a night for 20 Canadian dollars just outside the town. And at this point I'm starving, so I found this little place for coffee and breakfast. Great value for under €5. If you think Karpathos is quiet, this place is even quieter. So I went into town to book my ferry back for the next morning, and they warned me that it might not be going ahead due to the high winds the next morning. This got me worried. And if I don't make my ferry, I don't make my flight to Athens, and I don't make my flight home to the UK. So I tried to forget about this, and I thought I'd take a walk around free to check out the beach and the town. This is classic Greece in my opinion. You can see Karpathos Island in the distance on a clear day. You can even see the plane taking off from each island, from each airport. Difference in price between the ferry and the flight is €40, and right now I'm annoyed, but there's actually nothing I could do about it. There isn't a flight every day, so I'd have to stay another night, which didn't work with my flight back to the UK. So I have to sit here and pray to the weather gods for the morning, and at least I'm in a decent little spot if I get stuck. If you ever get yourself on Karpathos Island, lots to see and do. If you want something slightly smaller, quieter, and a bit more chic and more probably traditional Greek, come to Kasos Island. 5-minute flight, and also you can get a ferry here and back. It takes about an hour. It's super small, windy little streets, and there's quite a few locals about. 2 or 3 beaches here. If you fly, 10-minute walk from the airport into town, and you can also, I'd imagine in the high season, rent quite a few places on the front. One main town called Free, and there's 4 villages dotted around you can walk to. Super small, worth checking out, and what a day. As you can see behind me, that's Karpathos over there. It literally was like that, straight back down again. Awesome. I'm nervously making my way to the ferry port, hoping it will leave, and my host at the Airbnb told me that it should go ahead, so that made me feel a bit better on the journey. But I made sure to ask if I could stay if I got stuck, and she said yes. And lo and behold, the ferry is on. I landed back on Karpathos Island and headed towards my favourite local bar called Lambrinos. The couple who owned it are very nice and they looked after me on the island with some great breakfast, cheap beers and great company. They were so glad I visited in the off season and said I'm welcome back at any time. You must visit to support a local business and to get a top-notch omelette. But as I said, they were super friendly and the locals are awesome here. Was Karpathos Island worth visiting? 100% yes. This is a hidden gem. Granted, I went in the off season and many places are closed, but if you went in the shoulder season, you'll have an awesome time. There's plenty to see. I managed to see some highlights of the island, but there are loads of places I didn't manage to get to. If you're not sure after this video, check out the Karpathos Island guide in the show notes, or listen to the full episode that I recorded with Anthena and Vincent. There are beautiful beaches to see, caves to explore, historic villages to visit, amazing food, and kind locals to get friendly with. It is a dream place and one you should visit. Cheers. Please follow and subscribe on my YouTube channel today, and please rate and review the podcast on any podcast platform that you use. Thank you.